Warning, warning, is this the Bitcoin reversal you are looking for? Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A lovely start to this early Monday morning over here from, once again, a very snowy, actually blizzardy-ish Helsinki, Finland. And as always, I want to wish you the best and the happiest. Bitcoin having a little bit of a bloody Monday right now. And with that said, there's lots of opportunity in the short-term timeframes and, of course, the medium-term and higher-term timeframes as well, as we'll discuss today. So with that said, I want to be following up on everything that we spoke about yesterday and wish you the best and the happiest. By the way, for all the new people here, because I just saw like there's actually quite a few new people here on this channel, I should warn you, the video titles on this channel, they're always not to really do with the actual content. So just understand, playing around with a few of the YouTube algorithms here, as it's actually pretty damn interesting to kind of test out ideas with that. I totally understand now why other YouTubers are always using, doing the old rocket ship emojis and whatnot, and because it works, because it fucking works. Anyways, with that said, a little bit of early morning jest, and into the Krown chain application we go. And what do we see over here? We do see that Bitcoin dominance still maintaining its downside there. So I do want to check in on the Bitcoin dominance chart today, as we do have the weekly closure, and that is going to provide clarity on the long-term situation. Could even be looking for major reversals there versus major Satoshi pairings. Also, open interest coming down significantly, almost 1 billion to the T. In fact, as we do come all the way down to 5.5 billion, it looks like. So what does that suggest within the current context of price action? Well, that would suggest that longs are taking profits, as we do see open interest coming down, price action coming down, and we'll see later, well, volume, well, it'll be as it is, of course. But more importantly, I do want to be bringing that into focus. So remember that number, because we'll come back to it soon enough. Fear and greed index also coming down 4 points, so we're still extremely greedy, but finally having a little bit of a move outside of the range there in the extremely greedy zone, you might say, and into the data tab we go. So once again, referencing the Bitcoin funding rate yesterday was actually the canary in the coal mine, as you might expect. However, I wasn't really giving it as much significance as it really deserved yesterday, mostly because it was a weekend, and I usually want to see these reads perpetuated for about 48 hours to 72 hours consistently. And well, in the early morning hours, that actually would have been your 48-hour marker, as we saw this consistent read above 0.1% threshold for the last 2 days. So that actually was actionable if you were watching over it'd be like late Saturday to Sunday, and then early Monday morning, all of that included. And yes, we do still see them actually all around that same area still. We see Deribit 0.15%, we see FTX 0.13%, we see OKX 0.09%, okay, Bybit 0.08%, so still up there. We see Huobi 0.1%, and everything else kind of right around the corner. So that's about what we were looking for. That's about what I was looking to see for a little bit of a medium-term pullback, of which that's exactly what we're getting right now. Now, I want to obviously match up with price action as well, because generally speaking, if you were tuning into the video from yesterday, I was generally bullish on the short-term timeframes. Basically, as long as Bitcoin was holding up above a 38,500-ish region, obviously that area getting destroyed does set into short-term and medium-term downside ideas, of which we're going to follow up on right here, right now. So with that said, into the price action charts we go. Do I have any more announcements? Not really. I'll probably be on Twitch today, so fair enough. Anyways, into the secondary charts. So here is the first thing that I want to talk about on today. Let's remember where we are in the greater scale of things, because we did just get a new weekly open for both CMEs and spot price action. And the CME chart, once again, just the easiest chart to read, the most simple chart of them all, and the one chart to rule them all, if I had to say so. And what do we see? We do see that the weekly did come down all the way to backfill on the last week open. Classic idea right there. Also synonymous with the topside Toronto band. So I really like this for further confluence. I actually did end up buying this area upon waking, pretty much, because it's literally the crash, if you want to call it that, happened pretty much as I was waking up at the ripe old hour of 5 a.m. once again. Anyways, it's a very obvious bounce area. Now, the question is the run over? Is this the red flag area? Is this the time to be tipping or tucking tail and running away from the Bitcoin markets because it was all a scam and number no go up anymore? Well, no, I'd say on the greater scale, no. It's a little bit premature to say that. Again, I would love to be bearish as a trader. as you know, as a trader, a bearish market is, it's not necessarily easier to trade, but typically the moves happen faster, so it's a lot more, well, it's a lot more exciting, really. So in this case right here, you know, do we have anything really concerning on the weekly just yet? No, not as it stands. What would be concerning, might you ask? Well, of course, there's two things that would be really, really concerning here. One of them is a little bit one of them's a little bit further away. One of them's very much proximal to where we're at right now, and that would be a closure below last week's open, which was about 33,500, and that would also be around the topside shoulder band on this week's open as well, just yeah, about $1,000 above there. So anywhere between about there, 33.5 and 34.5. There is some actual structural problems, at least for a more long-term pullback, and that's at the point where I would start to target moves down to the mid to low $20,000 region. 23 to 24,000 bucks would be certainly within the cards, and certainly within the realm of possibilities if that were to happen. The other way, this one's less helpful to be fair, would be taking out last week's low. That's 28,440 on CMEs right here. So keep that in mind as well. If we go down to maybe a 3 days or anything to be aware of right here, yeah, one massive potential reversal dildo right there as it stands. Are we closing with one tonight? Yeah, we are. Okay, so this one's actually very, 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 very important. So while we do see that the weekly has potential there, it's still not necessarily well, confirmed, obviously. But more importantly, with CME 3-day right here, which is actually closing tonight at not 7 but 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and definitely check me on that one, because I'm actually not as familiar with that one. I would be looking at this if it did close as such as potential reversal. This would be your traditional doji dildo at the highs, and that is a signal of indecision, perhaps even reversal. And at this, you know, at this price point right here on this sort of volume, that would be more indicative of reversal. Now, of course, it's a long day left to go, 17 hours, 39 minutes, and 29 seconds to be exact, but it is within the cards. Again, if things do close essentially below about, basically anywhere below about 36,000 bucks, that will be within the cards for CMEs. This is only specific to CMEs. So do not use the same sort of ideology on spot price action. There's not even a 3-day closing on spot price action tonight, at least from what I'm aware of. Yeah, it's closing tomorrow night. So yeah, so exactly. So that should be rather clear. But keep an eye on that. That would make me start to look for moves back down a little bit below $30,000. And then we can see that domino effects lower. But for now, as I said, this is not problematic actually for me for a long term as it stands right here. It could be problematic if those conditions are met that we just laid out. However, as it stands, actually look at this as an opportunity. And full disclosure, I typically don't talk about my trades, or typically don't talk about, which I haven't even really been making trades over the last couple of months. I mean, just been fucking straight up. This was the first trade that I made in a while here, and I will be very quick to get the fuck out if this one turns to get me. But as it stands right now, I look at this as an opportunity. Anyways, going to the actual spot price action, let's see what they look like. Very similar as well. We got the backfill on last week open, and still riding the topside Toronto band as it stands right now. And we did say yesterday, looking for the weekly closure, which was happening obviously yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. When the new weekly opens, there was going to be a range very likely implied to the top, to wherever the topside Toronto band landed on the weekly on open. Now, I wouldn't have said necessarily that the pullback was going to happen like almost simultaneously as we get the new weekly open, but that actually is kind of what happens here. And so I do want to follow up on these ideas, because it's probably it's going to be a little bit more diabolical in the short-term timeframes with how fast this one moves. But let's now go down there and talk about what we were looking at yesterday. So yesterday, these were our pivots on the short-term timeframes, and these were the bias busters for the short-term timeframes right here, medium-term timeframes right here, and then this one's going to be a little bit more nasty if Bitcoin does start to break this region. But following up on yesterday's short-term timeframe analysis for the traders here, if you're looking at this area right here, you know, did essentially play. We do see a closure below 38,500, boom, down to the next level at 37,000 or 36,500 right here. And then a short little bouncy bounce up to the next level, rejection, boom, down, closes below, next level is initiated towards 34,500. So with that in mind, I still look at the same areas as relevant to the upside here too, and I'd essentially have the same sort of disposition towards that towards that notion as well. So with all of that in mind, you know, looking at this right here, now obviously Bitcoin basing off of the 34,500 pivot, if this area does break, which we'll talk about whether it's likely or not in just a second here, but if this area does break, I would be looking for a further drive down, actually quite significantly here. So this one is big, and it would imply move down towards $30,000 base actually, and that's at the point where Bitcoin, I believe on the charts that we just looked at, would start to really initiate some of those potentially more long-term ideas, especially coincided with the 3-day closure tonight on CME. So keep that in mind, because that is going to be the most important thing that we talk about today, and everything else that we talk about in the shorter term timeframes is more or less like, I guess if that's A, then that would be like 2A and 2B and 2C and all these different ones. Anyways, as it stands right now, let's see what our lower term time frame momentum oscillators are suggesting. We do see that 4-hour Stokes are really nosediving. Also, if you were following this trend line right here yesterday, that was also a damn good indication that once it actually broke, Bitcoin was going to do a little bit of a nosedive. So fair enough. But is there anything else to be aware of on the more immediate right here? I'm just kind of checking around. No, at least I don't think so. So looking at this right here, Bitcoin will actually keep the momentum to the downside as long as we are closing this next 4-hour dildo below 37,600. That's going to be coming in, I believe, about we just closed one 30 minutes ago. So 3 hours, 25 minutes, and 39 seconds. Obviously, that will change on the next one. I've also been getting a lot of questions about this too. You can find this indicator straight up in the public library. Just go to indicator tab right here and go KVDB. Yep, there you go, and it's the reverse stochastic cross. I've also had a video on it that I uploaded a couple weeks ago, around Christmas, whenever it was. So enjoy. On top of that, we do see that historical volatility percentile is starting to redline once again. We do see that it's all the way up to a 98.4 percentile right now. So pretty damn extreme right here. If I did have to call it, yes, I do think that Bitcoin probably does, get another couple of wicks lower, but as long as it doesn't break below and close, more importantly, a 4-hour dildo below 34,500, I'd look for a little bit of base in action right here. By the same token, if you do see this area broken on a closure, then yes, I would be looking significantly further south. There will be very likely bounces along the way, but don't confuse bounce for a reversal. For the first area that I'd kind of be looking at for that would be right here. Right around the 382 on this retracement, which would be about just above $32,000. And but again, I don't think that things would just reverse right there. It'd very likely come all the way down to that low $30,000 base. At that point, I do believe that there could be another potential for a medium term bottom to be put in right there, and then we'll come back to that idea if and when it does even get initiated. For right now, I would just kind of keep things more or less simple. And what do we see on 4-hour RSI? We do see a nice nosedive as well. Back into the bearish control zone, actually, the first time that we've seen that in quite some time. And does this destroy its inherent constructiveness within this whole formation? It will start to, actually, if it does start to head a little bit lower. Now, we do have this coming in right here, obviously, which is literally right where the 4-hour RSI is right now. Now, this is getting the lows all the way back towards late November. By the way, I should remind you, or remind myself also, where Bitcoin was during late November. It was literally back on way the fuck on over here at 16,500 on this major low before reaccumulation and then further blast off. Then once again hitting it right here on this major low at just about $18,000, and then boom, lift off a little bit later. So if we are going to still be playing that one, then this obviously is going to be, potentially the next major opportunity. So matching that up with what we saw on CMEs as far as the weekly trend indicators go over here, I would still look at that as potential major opportunity actually. Doesn't mean that's 100% guaranteed to work out, but matching that up with what we see on the open interest over here as well, with that coming down quite aggressively, quite significantly, actually just shaving off another 100 million as we see right now, that is still indicative of longs taking profits within the overall context of an uptrend. So does that really make me like super bearish on this? No, not as it stands. Bearish is the wrong term. Bearish really actually speaks more towards like a long-term trend activity. And this is more or less short term for now. But with that in mind, I mean, we are starting to see Bitcoin actually get a nice, its nice first pullback. I mean, we have about a 21% move to the downside thus far. I don't think it's very much out of the question to actually have a wick down to the 21. And I want to be very specific with this as well, because while we are in the short-term timeframes over here and I'm laying out these ideas, I want to be very, very clear by this. Bitcoin can very easily get a wick down here, but it's all about the closure. So if you are new here, understand that typically when I'm talking about level to level, I'm talking about closures, nothing more, nothing less, as that is what is, the most documentable. Let's make sure that this is adherent to a 4-hour right here. Okay, this is no longer relevant. Oh, no shit, because it's been like a week now. So fair enough. Anyways, still looking at all these areas kind of playing off, so that is good. So good confluence right there. Anyways, just talking to myself, and more importantly, let's go on to the 3-hour and see what the other lower term timeframes are suggesting right now. So 3-hour Stokes also downside angled and will remain to the downside as long as we are below 35,800. It looks like. Jesus Christ, yeah. So this one also broke the trend line a little bit before the 4-hour, although the 4-hour I think is a little more accurate on this one. And I mean, this doesn't really look like it wants to stop right here right now on the 3-hour, to be quite honest with you. But again, level to level, and if that next level breaks, I'd be looking towards a move down towards mid to low $32,000 region. Now, I should denote that $32,000 region is not just important from this area right here, but also daily 21 exponential average, which has not been tested since Bitcoin was down around $18,000 in early December. So it's been quite some time. And typically speaking, this is, you know, a nice area, at least for myself, to base some nice edges off of. But as it is right now, we do have a confirmed high being put in. This is certainly a confirmed high right here. Now, I would also want to be on record as saying, as I have been for the last, couple weeks, is that now that we do have an actual high in, I look at this area right here, this 89 read on the daily RSI as being a major one. I should actually go through the lower term time frames first. All right, hold on. We'll get back to that in a second. Sorry, apologies. It's a little bit early for me, and I am all over the place right now. Apologies for that. But let's go over here to the 2-hour. And what do we see? 2-hour momentum oscillators will cross back onto the upside above 34,600. So if we are going to see some base in action right here, again, I wouldn't mind. If it's not that I wouldn't mind, but it's somewhat likely that Bitcoin's going to get another few wicks back down into this region right here. However, on closing bases, we don't want to see 34,500 broken. Otherwise, I'd be looking for the lower levels. And as long as Bitcoin kind of, dips into there and still closes above, we will naturally see all of these momentum oscillators start to shift back on. And starting with the 2-hour right now, which is actually starting to get above that region. Again, it's actually trading currently about $300 above that region right now. But I want to see the 3 and 4-hour fall through. 2 hours not good enough for me to really get excited about much of anything. Same thing with HVP over here. Same thing with 2-hour RSI. So fair enough. And then we go to the hourly, which I imagine is probably having a fresh one right now. And actually, no, 37,000 is the magical number for this one. Obviously, that will switch around quite aggressively as well. But as it stands, I should go back to the 2-hour actually for a second here. 2-hour Joule. Every time I talk shit about my own indicator, I fucking get it wrong. Jesus Christ. I said yesterday I do not take signals over the weekend. Well, shame on me for that one, man. Shame on me for that one. I want to be very open and transparent, when I get things wrong like that. And yes, the 2-hour Joule did give a sell signal right here, 10th of January at 4 a.m. my time. And that would be 10th of January, 4 a.m. would be right here at $41,000. So fair enough. Shame on me for that one. And that's that's obviously more of a personal thing, but do want to follow up on it. Still, I do remain with my prior notions. Like I really don't like taking those signals over the weekend. 1 out of 10 does not make it playable in my opinion. But hey, fair enough to the people who did play that. Congratulations, nice move right there, and maybe even more too. Hourly, do we see anything out of the ordinary right here as well? Hourly RSI is really actually losing its constructiveness here. I would even go as far as saying that the hourly RSI is problematic if this were to start to extrapolate into, especially like a 3 or 4 hour RSI. Of course, it always starts with a lower term time frame, and we do see that this dump is increasing on volume too. So I am a little bit worrisome about that. Actually, that would be the two biggest things that I'm really starting to see in these charts right now that do suggest a little bit more downside or further downside from where we're at right now. But still, I remember with my with my prior levels, that is the way that I trade. That is the way that I look at things. And perhaps a little bit of waiting here is good for the soul. Anyways, into the medium term timeframes we go, and what do we see right here? We see that a 12-hour did come all the way down to the 21. We did have 12-hour bearish divergence, which actually did not get signaled on Caretaker's RSI, which is rather interesting here. This is actually This is the first time to memory that I found one that I would have identified bearish divergence here, but Caretaker did not. Very interesting. Must be due to my settings, because this is a very obvious top right here. And that's an obvious top right there, and these are obviously lower highs on RSI. So yeah, there you go. And that would have been your targeted region right at the 21, which we're currently hovering around right now, just about $500 below. Anyways, 12-hour RSI. Do we have any other issues with this one? Again, long term, I do look at this as constructive, but very likely to come a little bit more deep into the neutral zone. So that would imply a little bit more of drama within this region, if you will. And 12-hour Stokes. What are we looking at right here? Coming down below the critical zone. However, I would denote that there is this lovely trend line coming in right around here. And a lot of the times you will see an oscillation between the critical zone and then also the top side of the critical zone, or I guess the top side of the bullish control zone, if you will. And usually that's a very strong read. So I would be looking for this one to come down and officially test it on the next tick. If that test fails, likely more problems, and it very likely will come all the way down to wherever the top side of the bullish control zone is here, which would be right around this region. So that would imply obviously further downside. That would be a lot more problematic for that next move down to about 35,000 bucks. Likely does come alongside a breakage of the 34,500-ish region, and that, well, and everything that implies is is going to take effect as well. Anyways, moving on into the daily. This is the one that I really want to speak about a little bit more. So daily, a lot of things going on right here. First and foremost, I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into the daily RSI. So Bitcoin in its history has never put in a major long-term high without bearish divergence on the daily. Now, as of right now, we have a high. Do we have a long-term high? Unconfirmed as of right now. Obviously, I really want to see Bitcoin actually like break, especially below the 21 on a daily would be would start to be a little bit worrying here. But as it stands right now, that's obviously not happening. And more importantly, what this would imply is that if going off that further notion that if Bitcoin typically does put in its highs on on divergence reads, which usually comes to the effect of 3 strikes rather than 2, then this would also imply that Bitcoin still is on the long term in an upward trajectory, which obviously it is because we are in an uptrend. Again, this is a little bit diabolical here though, because I can say that Bitcoin's in an uptrend, and it is in an uptrend on the daily. The problem is that if you're looking for a reversal on the daily, well, we need both lower lows and lower highs, right? So at this price point, or sorry, in this whole vicinity right here, where was Bitcoin's last higher low, for example? Well, not here, not here, not here. Actually all the way down here at $18,000. So the range, technically speaking, could be absolutely massive. So what I'd actually be looking for is Bitcoin to just kind of create its own range above hopefully 25,000 bucks, as that would be long term pretty damn good. But for right now, it's kind of the time to be a little bit more on edge, I suppose. So yes. Anyways, going back to this idea over here, we've actually never seen a Bitcoin major high being put on without bearish divergence on the daily, at least 2 drives, typically 3. In fact, come to think of it, I don't even think that we've seen one without 3 drives, at least to my knowledge. Let's go back to this one over here at $14,000. Can see very clearly, yeah, actually this one had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drives, and the 5th one coming in, yeah, right at the $14,000 high, so not bad. That was a very obvious one. Also works on the lows too. This one obviously put in a major bullish divergence right there, and then of course we got 20,000 all the way over here. You can see a major discrepancy between highs and lower highs on RSI. This one and this one is what I'm referencing versus this high and this high that I'm referencing. This one actually did only have 2 drives, which is rather interesting, as that was the $20,000 high in December of 2017. Going back further than that, even on these drives right here, which you can very easily see, we have some more bearish divergence right there. Actually, even drawing it back, we could even go like 4 highs on that, but certainly 2 highs right here before this major pullback. By the way, that pullback coming to the tune of about 35% actually from closure to closure. This one over here, 1, 2, 3, or we can see 1, 2, 3 drives, and that is 1, 2, 3, and actually 4 right there. So technically 4 drives to be fair. Over here we have another one, 1, 2, boom, and then that's about it. I mean, we can go further back than that, but that's kind of what I want to highlight right here. So as it stands right now, obviously, if Bitcoin is going to confirm a local high here, which it looks incredibly, I mean, it is confirmed as a local high, yes, on a daily. I'd be looking for I actually would not be looking for this to be the full-on reversal. I'd be looking for it to, obviously print a high and then print a low. Hopefully that low is a higher low, which all it has to do is close above $18,000 in order to fulfill that criteria. Yes, I know that that's a little bit unhelpful, of course, but my point is that's going to set up the next range. That's going to be very, 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 very important, because as long as that next low holds, assuming that it does, put in somewhere in this region here, then that's going to be the next major basing point, and that's the next point where I could potentially be looking at long-term trades once again, or at least re-entry. So with all of that in mind, this would still imply actually that long-term Bitcoin still likely does go for some new highs here. So fair enough. I do want to remain within that sort of frame of mind, because that has been historically correct, and this is not just correct for Bitcoin. Typically see this in traditional markets as well, from my experience. Anyways, moving on. Do we have anything to be aware of on the 2-day? All momentum oscillators are turning down here. Same sort of thing on 2-day RSI as well. A little bit of downside implied, of course, but still, I need to see more. Here's your daily. Here's your daily. Here's your 2-day. Here's your 3-day. So all of them are twisting down right now. So do we have a little more downside on this? Potentially, yes. Yeah. I mean, again, I'd still be going level by level. Does it look like Bitcoin wants to get another wick lower? Probably, yeah. But until we get a closure below, especially on a 4-hour below 34,500, I probably wouldn't be looking for like a full-on basing lower. So that would be, again, $30,000 target if and when that does happen. Okay, all right. Into caretakers, STC we go. Let's see. Okay, we're actually in a strong falling trend for the first time in a long time. This is on an hourly, by the way. So again, it's not like anything too damning just yet, but would show the range as it stands. Actually, we need to go to a little bit of a higher term time frame for the actual range here. Let's go to a 4-hour. Yeah, here we go. 4 hours going to get it. 4 hours showing 32,500 to the downside versus, Jesus Christ, yeah, humongous to the upside. That's not going to be helpful. Obviously, to the upside, not really talking about any further melts up until Bitcoin gets back above about 41,300 on a 4-hour closure, and that's not looking very likely today. Let's go down to a 2-hour and see what this one says. Maybe we can curtail this range a little bit more. No, not really. No, it's still kind of in line with the hourly, which is getting those targets properly. But what I'm looking for is the actual range here. But yeah, it would essentially be saying the same thing. So, Bitcoin does want to take that next leg down. I would be looking for a bounce at 32.5, we'll call it, based off the 4-hour and the lower term timeframes here, and also lower term timeframe structure on my regular charts. But I would be looking for that bounce to likely fail as well, and likely get wicks down to $30,000, and then we can talk about the next moves lower if and when that does happen. But again, I do want to take things one by one here. I don't want to switch around to being bearish too fast in an overall massive uptrend. So with that in mind, the criteria is set. It can certainly happen. It's very well laid out, but I want to see it, actually confirmed before I start to switch on to that. Okay, back into it over here. We do have traditional markets opening up, back up once again. So I do want to check out Nasdaq futures, and remember that if I'm going to see what something good on Nasdaq, I'm probably going to be still further bullish on Bitcoin here too. Looking at the 4-hour coming down a bit, I would be looking for this one to come down a little bit more, actually, at least right below about $13,000. Into the 12,950 region, it looks like once again. But looking at the daily, this is not problematic at all. I mean, it kind of is reminiscent of Bitcoin on the weekly. This is still continuation. I still stick with my upside targets. I look at this as yet again another opportunity, a backfill in last week open at anywhere around, anywhere in the mid 12,900s. I look at that as an opportunity as it stands. I wouldn't get bearish on this chart as long as it's above, especially last week's low, but that's again not helpful here. Will destroy structure. Yeah, it actually does have quite a fair bit to go here, but below 12.8 on a 4-hour would be pretty damn bad, but that's still pretty damn far away, so it's not very helpful really. Let's go back to a weekly. I mean, with that in mind, I still stick with my upside targets here, 13,150 based off the pattern target, and also based off Fibonacci extensions at the 2 spot right here. I could extend that target long term as well, as this does still look relatively strong. And does this bode well for Bitcoin? I do believe it does, yes. Again, everything needs to be taken into consideration together, as this market typically does move with each other, and especially Nasdaq representing a lot of the tech sector, which we can't actually look to the tech sector right now because it's not trading just yet, but it will a little bit later today. So maybe for the Forex video, it will be relevant. I'd be looking for Bitcoin to likely, continue trading with it. So with that in mind, let's go check out SPY futures right here. Same thing. I have no problems with this chart at all, well, except for the fact that this is way too convoluted here. So let me just adjust it so that it makes a little bit more sense. And there we go. Something like that would be about right. Still stick with my target of, well, I guess we already hit my target actually. I was going to say 38.30. We got up to 38.24.5 last week. Close enough is close enough, but this one looks like it wants more here. Next fib target would be 38.75, which I'll actually mark off with the horizontal right here. Let's do something like this, and I'll be looking for a short-term pullback based off that area as well. So again, weekly still looks good. Long term still looks good on these. So I do kind of hesitate to become bearish on Bitcoin. If we do see a daily closure on SPY futures below 37.50, that would be problematic for structure and imply move down towards the 55, somewhere around 36.50. But still pretty damn far away. I'm not necessarily looking for that to happen, although short term would be hinting at a bit of downside here. So fair enough. Perhaps follows Bitcoin in that regard, but I'd still look at that as an opportunity, at least as it stands. I can obviously be phenomenally wrong about this one, but it does offer up a nice edge. And again, that's always documented with, areas on the other side that actually change around that bias. Okay, I can see that gold is, yes, okay, so the reversal call on gold was proper. I'd be looking for gold to come all the way back down below 1800 now. 1780 is where I'd be looking towards. This is really fucking bad here. 1, 2, 3 lower highs. We did hit our 1950 target, but then I extended it to 2050. That's going to be wrong, of course, but we did identify that last week on Friday at the critical moment, and I do stand by that. This one's very likely coming further down. What else do we have? Maybe some other cryptos would be a good idea. Oh, yes, that's what I want to do. Bitcoin dominance here. Yeah, that's what we really need to see. Okay, Bitcoin dominance. Holy shit, fuck. I think that might be a bad print. Holy shit. Got all the way down to 1238. Imagine if we go to a daily, it's not going to even be there. Yeah, it seems to me like it's a bad trading view print, but I need to see where the weekly closed. Where did you close weekly? This was our, okay, yeah, so is this closure right here, 68.75. So what I'd be, oh, goddamn, get this fucking wick off my screen, you bastard, you. I need to be able to see this a little bit better. Okay, there we go. Let's go down to a daily. Yeah, some obvious base in action right around 68.50. I'm still not bearish on this. No, I need to look at some actual pairings here. Let's look at like Link Bitcoin. Still in dire straits. Not good on the daily. Well, at least not for right now. What about on the weekly? Weekly, a little bit of bottoming action going on. I would be looking for another couple of wicks to the downside, somewhere around upper $30,000 region, or not $30,000, but 30,000 Satoshi region, like 39,000 bucks. But this one is starting to show a little bit of bottoming action here. See what the daily is printing. Do we have any sort of bearish divergence? No, but we have hidden bearish divergence. So yes, I would be looking for another drive to the downside. Here's the key critical thing though. Any sort of a daily closure below this region right here, 37,500 Satoshis, I am obviously bearish off that, looking for the next major level to be hit on a weekly, which would be quite a fair bit further south, down here at about 30,000 even. So fair enough. By the same token, as long as it doesn't break that area, I would be looking for wicks down here, yes, but it is starting to show a few signs of bottoming. We do have some bullish divergence on the lows, accompanied by some hidden bearish divergence. So, does it oscillate to and fro here and make a bit of a range? Likely yes. So I don't think that's reversing like today, but I'd be looking for some further wicks down. If this area holds, that'd be a damn good sign. If that area breaks, well, continuation of trend is your friend. Cardano, what are the car dealers doing today? Nope, still shitty. Let's look at the weekly. No, weekly is starting to show a little bit of reversal signs here as well. Bullish divergence off the lows. Yes, that was confirmed last week, so I missed that one. But what I'm also saying right here, okay, this would be a big one if it does happen. If it does happen, but that's going to take another week to confirm, to be fair. I'll hold off on this one for now. Weekly Jewel is still downside. No, it's actually not downside postured. Interesting. It's a little bit of a intermediary a change or shift in sentiment. What about Ripple? Okay, still shitty. All right, so we still got that. Litecoin, very shitty actually. No, not good. What about Butyrol? Let's go down to a daily really quick. No, bearish divergence. Momentum oscillator is shifting to the downside. This bearish divergence is not confirmed, by the way. But if you do see today's closure, basically anywhere below 3,150,000 Satoshis, yes, that will be confirmed. And yes, I would be looking for this to topple on over and come all the way back down. I'd look for this pairing right here to likely drive the rest of the general altcoin market. So if that does happen at the end of today's closure, I would retain bearishness on most altcoin versus Bitcoin pairings. Yes, there are going to be some successful ones here and there. Let's look at another one of the big winners, Theta. No, this one's coming down too. I'd be looking for this one to come all the way down to 400 or 4,200 Satoshis. Still long term, it's good. Do like the subtrend here, but yeah, short term and medium term, it would imply some downside. So I do still err on the side of downside for most altcoins, but I'd keep as keen eye on Butyrol because that one does seem to really get the general altcoin market right. and that one can basically confirm or deny my inherent bearishness within the altcoin market as soon as today, actually. So I keep an eye on that one. Again, any sort of a closure, basically where we're at or lower. And yes, I would start to get bearish on this one, and thus the greater altcoin market versus Satoshis, not versus US dollar. Versus US dollar, obviously that's going to be just a function of whether Bitcoin's bullish or not. And as it stands right now, I still stand by my buy, at the very least a scalp buy here. And I would kind of look at this as a test of the 21 on the daily as well, as I'm sure I'll get a question similar to that. Do we have any sort of hidden divergences here? No, we do not, except not anytime soon, at least. What about 12-hour potential? Because our last 12-hour low is right here. So actually, yes, that could very much be confirmed. I guess within the next 48 or 24 hours from right now, could be confirmed. Yes. What else do we have? We got 34 minutes in this. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. All right. So I'm already talking too much, I guess. All right. Let's make this video a little bit shorter than I suppose. Let's go. I do want to check out Link though. Link, what are you doing? Yeah. Coming down a little bit more aggressively here too. However, again, I look at this as this is a fucking opportunity right here. I like the weekly. I like the week. I'd still stick with a $19 target. I would. I mean, although we did kind of hit that target last week on this chart. This is still fine. I don't have any major issues with this one. If it came even further down to like $12, I'd look at that as a major opportunity. But right now, even that's good enough for a backfill in last week open. Yeah, it could get it. Yeah, it could very easily get a move down to the 21 here, somewhere around 12 or 12 and a half bucks. But this is not a bad chart at all by any stretch of the imagination. This is actually quite a nice one. Hidden bullish divergence on last week low as well. Now you could say that that's definitely played out, but I don't have any major issues with this. Let's go check out Butyrol versus US dollar. And again, backfill in last week open and back up. I'm not bearish off that as it stands. Now, how is that going to show up on a daily and lower term timeframes? Well, we're very likely to see some sideways and down action, yes, but keep in mind the long term trajectory here. Yeah, 4 hour can very easily come back down and swipe around just around $1,000 here. No problems there. Jewel did give a sell signal. This one looks like it was around. Yeah, this one actually was around the time that CME's opened last night, so that actually was playable. At least I would have looked at that as playable. And that gave you the move from 1,300 to, oh Jesus Christ, man, did really get all the way down to 1,000. Nice one. Fair enough. So that could have a little bit more venom on it as well. Okay, what else do we want to talk about here? Let's go back to a daily really quick. 2-day, 3-day. Okay, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So yeah, I think it's time for me to wrap this bitch up. What I'm going to do now, is there anything to be aware of on CMEs that we haven't already said? Are the CME ranges more obvious? As usual, they are. I could just mark them off like this. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. There you go. There's your last high. There'd be your next target to the downside if that breaks. We have a gap right here to the upside. So keep in mind, we do have a gap right around 40,000 bucks on CMEs. That could be a little bit problematic. Will it show up on a daily though? Not really. But a reversal there though, to be fair. Anyways, regardless of whether I'm bullish or bearish, I would be looking for a bounce off this area just because of, of all those major things coinciding here. But we'll bring it back over here and we'll go back to our spot price action over here. And let's wrap this whole puppy up. How about that? Bitcoin on the weekly closing above the top section order band once again on the CMEs and also spot price action as well. Now, while we do have a major dump in the early morning hours, I would be looking at this first and foremost to bounce. For full disclosure, yes, I did buy. I am talking my book right now. I want to be very transparent with that, but I do stand by the bounce. And, does this turn into a scalp or does this turn into continuation? That's a real question right now. How am I going to be judging that? Well, I'm going to be judging that by one of two ways. First off, on the weekly, obviously we have our downside pivots here, very well laid out. But the short-term timeframes are obviously going to be more actionable, seeing as this price actually moving rather fast. We have major ranges, so I would be looking at the same ranges that we actually had yesterday, and following up from yesterday for the people on Twitter, as I'll put this video there, I would be looking at essentially the same areas. 38,500 right here is still relevant. 37,000 right here. I would get rid of this one just because it is relevant, but it's not like. It just doesn't matter as much as this one right here, to be fair, at 37,000 bucks. And then, of course, our major one at $34,500 right here. As long as $34,500 does hold, I do look at this as likely a bit of a stop and reverse point, meaning that I would be looking for a bit of a rally here. The question is, on the rally, does Bitcoin put in a lower high or not on the shorter term timeframes? And by extension, could fall up to, even a daily, at which point we would have a bit of a problem. But for right now, I would be looking for a bounce. At the very least, very likely does test about $37,000 if I had to call it. And I would be looking for a momentum also to shift back up. If you do see those areas start to get taken back, again, that was $37,000 right here. I could extend that move another about $2,000 or $3,000 to CME closure on Friday, of which we saw over here at about $40,000. So that would still be relevant, and I would be looking for a bit of a pullback off that region as well. That would be the next big test, so to speak. Anyways, as it is right now, momentum oscillators are still angled to the downside. Here's your 4-hour. It will cross back onto the upside above where? Above 37,600. That will change on the next tick, by the way, in all successive ticks, by the way. So you definitely follow up on that, but that is what we have for now. 3-hour showing a very similar area at about, actually where we're at right now at about 35,800-ish region, as my raspy lesbian voice comes into play once again. Buy hourly is already kind of shifting around, will officially turn to the upside with any sort of a closure above 34,500 or 34,600, that is, and hourly is flip-flopping around 36,250 is the magical number as well. So all these are coming in within the same region. What does that likely align with, as they all are kind of bifurcated right now? I'd be looking for a couple more wicks down into the 34,500 region, maybe even further down towards 33.5. But as long as there's no closures, especially on a 4-hour dildo closure below 34,500, I would look at this as a short-term base area likely to set up for a move back up to 37,000 bucks. That's where the next short-term test does come back into play. If Bitcoin can make it above there, especially on a 4-hour, what about a 2-hour? Could we use this? Yes, we could use a 2-hour actually. So a 2-hour closing above there obviously would imply a move, not just back up to 38.5, which was relevant for yesterday, but it would imply a move back up towards where CME's closed on Friday, which is going to be somewhere in the somewhere in the upper $39,000 region, low $40,000 region, as I would be looking for a bit of a pushback, whether you're bullish or bearish around that region, and that would be the next big test, so to speak. So for right now, again, just kind of wrapping it up, weekly Bollinger Bands, I still look at this as an opportunity as it stands. I know that it looks a little bit crazy, but there's one other major thing. Fuck, I almost forgot. 3-day does close tonight on CMEs. If it closes like this is going to start to look a lot more like a reversal. So if it does close basically anywhere below about $36,000, potentially problematic, especially if we come back down and take out this current low at 33,960, only relevant for CMEs. If that happens, no questions asked, I will start to look for reversal, targeting a move down toward down below $30,000. And, we'll get to that bridge when we cross it or whatever the fuck. Anyways, with that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest. Take care, and until next time.